Here we are, FightHype.com.
FightHype.com.
Lou Dibella, we said it after this fight. Kambosos beat Tiafoe. My boss said it. You people all forgot in the world, Lou Dibella's a promoter too. You're down here in Australia. How's it feel?
First of all, I love Melbourne and I love Australia. This is a great country, great place to be. It's great to see George getting the love he earned and deserves. And you know what? His star is in the process of rising right now. This fight Sunday is huge. It's all, I mean, this is the fight that can elevate him to true superstar pound for pound status. Devin's a hard guy to fight. Devin's a very skilled technical fighter. His boxing ability is very, very strong. He does virtually nothing wrong. Good movement, very good sense of the ring. I think George's tenacity and rate of activity, along with underrated speed and power, I think George is going to pull this off. And I think that this is going to be the fight that elevates George to superstar status.
Gervonta Davis had a devastating knockout round 6 on the weekend.
I gotta tell you something. I mean, his work rate in the ring, his activity rate, people complain, they criticize him. But if that kid hits you, it hurts. I mean, he is a freaky puncher for a little guy.
Is there a chance one day we see that fight?
Oh,
is it
sure
a megastar fight?
Let me tell you something. George, when I first spoke to George, after the Tiafoe fight, I suggested go do a victory lap, go back to Australia and fight. Exactly, never.
George,
that's the point.
I need you in 1 minute.
And what he just said to you is the truth. I said, hey, why don't you take a victory lap? You had a real, it's a tough fight. You trained for a full year.
He didn't want to do it.
No, he said, no way. He said, Lou, get me fucking the biggest fight you can get me. And you know, we originally tried to make the Haney fight. I couldn't do a deal with Hearn. I went and made a deal for Lomachenko. The war erupted in the Ukraine. Lomachenko did what I think you would expect the great champion to do and went to his home country to defend his country, and he was unavailable. That would have been an opening to fight anyone George wanted.
Yeah.
No, George came to me and he said, get Haney. I don't want any kind of keep busy fights. I don't want to fight anything but the best. I will promise you, I know what the marching orders are going to be on Monday morning. The marching orders on Monday morning when George wins are going to be, go get me the biggest fight you can get me.
What is it, Lou? Is it Lomachenko next, potentially if Kambosos gets through this, or is it head back to America and Gervonta? Like Gervonta on the weekend with Romero, he looked good. It was a different style of fight. Your reaction to that, how he looked?
You know, he not much happened in the fight. It was not a very fun or interesting fight for the early rounds. However, you could see Gervonta measuring him and waiting to land that punch. And then he lands flush, and that's it. I mean, say what you will, Davis got freaky punching power, and he's got star power. Ryan Garcia has star power. I think with Lomachenko still in the Ukraine right now, I don't know when that situation is going to end or when he's going to be available to fight. But the biggest fights for George coming up, I don't want to look past Haney because I'm sort of superstitious, but you know who they are.
Of course, I know.
You know the names. Look, there are stars in the lightweight division. Say what you will, there's a lot of haters Davis has. I'm not one of them because the kid can punch and he sells tickets. And that's his job. His job is to make people care. And whether they love him or hate him, people want to see him fight. And even in a fight that was sort of, in my mind, disappointing because there wasn't a lot of action, not a lot of punches thrown, that punch was sensational that ended that fight. I mean, that kid can punch like a mother. I mean, he is a hard punching guy, punches way over his weight. You know, I mean, and I think that makes him really compelling. You know, Ryan Garcia's star power, his social media presence makes him an international star. You know, and then you have Lomachenko, who's one of the best pound for pound. There's no shortage. Yeah. There's no shortage of big fights for George.
Lou, you've been around it for over 38, 40 years. Is the lightweight division the hottest division you've seen in boxing for a long, long time? I know we can go back to Floyd and Duran. And
the lightweight division.
It's hot now, huh?
It's a hot division right now because there's a lot of star power at the top. And then there's a lot of talent below. I mean, there are guys coming up, prospects coming up at 35. When you look at the top 10 to 15 at 35, there are solid fighters all over the place. And then you got 4 or 5 star level fighters at the top of the division. Not to mention guys at 130 like Shakur Stevenson and the other guys at 130 that could come up. And Shakur technically and is brilliant. I mean, he's pound for pound kind of talent in my view. And there's other guys at 30. 30's also got a lot of talent. So when you're looking at a situation where you have between 130 and 140, there are an incredible number of big fights for George Kambosos.
Your take on yesterday, George.
But I got to tell you something. I want to repeat this because I don't want to jinx myself. I'm not looking past Devin Haney. Devin Haney is a very good boxer, very confident kid, very adult kid for a young, early 20s kind of kid. This is a very, very, very tough fight. George went after the most difficult and biggest fights he could. I mean, think about this. Fights Teofimo Lopez, signs to fight Lomachenko. Lomachenko becomes unavailable, goes right to Devin Haney.
The kid's got no fear, this Kambosos.
He's got ice water in his fucking veins. George Kambosos fears nothing. George Kambosos doesn't. He wants the biggest challenges. He wants to test himself. When people think that he's trying to climb too high a mountain, he says, "F that, get me to that. I'm going to get myself to that mountaintop, make the fight." He doesn't want to hear about second-tier fights. He only wants to fight the best. And you know what? What is boxing all about? What makes our sport great? Our sport's at its best, at its biggest, when the best fight the best. Part of the problem we have right now is too many of our fights are shit. If you're a great fighter, reach for the fucking gold ring. Reach for the stars. Fight the best out there. And by the way, if you lose to another guy that's one of the best in a great fight, so what? You come back and win the next fight. Right, but what our sport is about is the best fighting the best. This Saturday in the States, Sunday in Australia, George Kambosos, Devin Haney, the best at fighting the best, and I think that George is going to be victorious.
Check it out, guys. Main event with Fox Sports, and obviously back into America on ESPN. Dibella, thank you for your time.
FightHype.com.